going on, YouTube? I'm gonna be starting a series of lessons on chords to use in praise and worship when you're playing acoustic guitar. This is probably gonna be prefaced at those beginners, those intermediates that are looking for a couple of extra things you might not have known. One thing is, or a couple of things in the beginning. First, I tune my guitar down a half step, so it's in standard tuning, a half step down. So the strings are as follows: E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B flat, and E flat. And the second thing is I'm very theory heavy, and so I encourage others to know a decent amount of my music theory, to have a working knowledge of music theory, because you should definitely know your craft. If you can call yourself a musician, you should definitely know the ins and outs of music. I wouldn't sit in a classroom and learn from a teacher who didn't know the ins and outs of what they were teaching. So I don't know why musicians think that they can do that and that that's acceptable. So I say that to say that I will be referencing the number system very much. And I'm sure from the context clues, you'll be able to pick up what the numbers are. But if you need an example, an explanation, I'll definitely I'll definitely be putting up a lesson about what makes up the numbers in the number system and how you get them and what they mean. But I say that to say we're starting in E, because E is a very good key for these nice open very nice open worship chords, to get that ringy sound from these two, from the B and the E strings. So to start off, this is very standard cowboy chord here, this E major open position chord that is in everybody's beginner's handbook. Pretty much it's one of the first guitar chords you learn. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but if you need the tabs to any of these chords, just let me know. But one thing I do play on a one chord, and the one in the key of E is E, is this. This is a very lush one chord. It's a one. It's actually just a power chord. And by power chord, I mean it's just roots and fifths. But they're doubled, and the root I think is actually tripled. No, it's actually, yeah, 4 times. The root's played 4 times. And so what I'm doing is I'm just playing the root on the A string, which obviously is an E, and then this is a fifth, and then an octave on the root. And then what I'm doing is I'm letting the B and the E strings ring out. So this B, this E, and the low E. And there's so much power, and like it's so harmonically simple that it just sounds very powerful. It's very ringy, and it's a really good chord to play. And you can play that anytime you have to play an E major chord. Anytime you have to play an E major chord, that's gonna fit. But this isn't the only place I play this power chord. If you take just these 2 notes that are on the D and the G string, you take your fingers and you move them down to the 2nd fret, you get this lovely voicing for an A sus2 chord. That's a really good voicing to use. It's using a 2 instead of a 3rd. And what I like to do with the A sometimes is I like to just kind of mess around with it, because that's an A major chord that has a 3rd in it, which your 3rd's right there. And I'll take my pinky and hammer on to the 4th. So you have your sus2, A major, A sus4, A sus2. So you got a lot of good stuff there. But if you take that power chord, you move it up a whole step so that your index finger is on the B root note on the A string. You get that, which is a really nice B sus4 chord. You have to be careful about the sus4 chord sometimes, especially when you're in a band setting, because if someone else is playing just a regular major chord, like if somebody else was playing a B major chord and I played this sus4 chord, that can be it can be a very harsh clash there, because there's a semitone in between the 4 of the chord and the 3rd in the chord, and so that's going to make that sound really harsh. So you have to be careful when you're using some of these chords in a band setting, but that's still a really good voicing when you're playing by yourself, or when you're introing a song in, something like that, or even if you just organize that with the band so that you can play this chord. That's a really good chord to play. If you move that up a whole step, you get a nice 6 chord. The 6 in E would be C sharp, but it's a minor chord. And so this, because all I'm playing is that same power chord off of C sharp, but letting the B and the E notes ring out, it's a lovely C sharp minor 7 chord. Very nice, very lush. That's a really good chord to use. And I'm really not even taking off my these 2 fingers. I can play this E right here. Sorry. Go down to the A. Go up to C sharp. And down to the B. And that's a 1-4-6-5 progression, the key of E. And that sounds lovely. And all I did was just rooted my or just kept my my ring and my pinky finger down on the D and G strings and just moved it around, and you get that good lush sound. A couple of other places you can play chords like that is you take that E string major bar chord, you move that up to the 5th fret where your A is. The root note would be on the 5th string. I mean on the E string 5th fret. And what I'm doing is I'm taking that same shape, I'm moving it up, and I'm just letting the B and the E strings ring out. And instead of a sus2 sound like you got down in the 2nd fret with the power chord, you get this add 9 sound. You have a 2 in there, but you also have a 3rd. So that makes it an add 9 chord, and it sounds so great. Another thing that you can do is move that up a whole step. And this chord is very funny. Like I said, it's a sus4 chord. It has a 3rd in it, because the 3rd and the 4th are a couple octaves apart. It's not as harsh of a clash, but there's still somewhat of a clash there. It sounds really good when the guitar is by itself though. So it's a tasteful clash, but when a lot of other instruments are together, that starts to get really muddy and really clash. So like I said, you got to be careful, but that's a really good sound. Another thing that you can do is play all of those chords with the E string just ringing out. So that's a 1 chord. I'm gonna play a 4 chord with an E note and a bass, a B chord with an E note and a bass. Sounds great, right? So on the 9th fret, you have a C sharp right here, and what I do is I play the C sharp with my middle finger, and I take the meat, just that meat part of my finger right there, and I let it barely sit, lightly sit on the A string just to mute it. And then right under that, in the same fret, the 9th fret, I put those 2 fingers again, my ring and my pinky, down on the D and the G string, and you get a C sharp minor 7 again. And so that's a really good sound to use. And so those move down, the open chords actually connect together really well. So that's about it. There are 2 more voicings that I use. Sometimes I use this C chord with E in the bass, which is that same chord, that E major chord. I move it up. so that I can play it off of the C root. But you have to add your index finger down here on the what's that there? On the 8th fret on the B string, because if you let that B ring out, it's a C major 7, and that's not a good sound in the key of E. That's gonna clash, especially if you're playing with a band. But I use that. I use this chord sometimes. It's a good flat 7 chord to go to. You move that up a whole step. I'll play a D with E in the bass. That's another good sound to go to. So yeah, let me know again if I can help with anything. If I can put the tabs up, I definitely will. If somebody requests it, or maybe I'll you guys send me your email or email me, and I'll put it in a Word document, and I'll just send the Word document out. So yeah, thanks for watching.